Greetings. I'm going to do something a little bit different today for my tarot video, as most of my normal go-to decks that I use for most of my reading are kind of, the energies in those cards are kind of tied up in another place this week. But I thought, being spring, finally, it would be a lovely time to look once more at an oracle deck that I have. Yes, isn't that a shocker? The Druid plant oracle, which, if you are familiar with the illustrations by Will Worthington, this is one of his illustrated decks. It's an absolute gorgeous deck. I mean, I think any deck. I have quite a few of the decks that Will Worthington has illustrated, and they do not disappoint. If you get them only for the if you get them only for the illustrations, it's really well worth the money. But anyway, it's gorgeous. And yes, the size of the box is a clue, because yes, the cards are giant cards. It's another one of those giant card decks. And I normally shy away from using these big decks when I'm trying to do a YouTube video using them, because they just don't fit on my table here in order to get a good shot. It's really hard to get a good shot of them. So it's not my go-to size. Plus, it's harder to shuffle big cards. But these being, there's only 36 cards here, so that I could do shuffle the corners pretty well. Or you can even shuffle them this way instead of this way, which I can't even hardly reach that way. So I can do it this way. Anyway, but you can see they're beautifully, the illustrations, and I'll give you a closer look at some of them, are beautifully illustrated. But not just because of the plants did I want to visit this deck today. I got it out for myself to visit because of the plants, because I like to go through decks, especially the oracle decks, just from time to time, like pull out a card, daily cards, um, just to try to keep familiar with some of these decks, because that way I know the energy pretty well, and if I want to use them to perhaps enhance a reading that I do with one of my other decks, I'll be able to make a really good decision on what oracle deck I think might work well, might play nicely with the deck that I'm using. But you know me, normally I don't read much with oracle, and normally I do not use oracle for spreads. I do not do oracle spreads. That's like a no-no. It's a no-no for me for so many reasons. I've told you already the reasons. I just don't think they're designed to read well in any normal spread. Like, I would use these for a normal spread. I don't think they offer enough. I don't think they give enough information. The cards themselves, the deck of cards, does not, I don't think, have enough information to give adequate readings for most everyday questions that we ask. That being said, they're really wonderful for a lot of other things. They're really wonderful for doing single card readings. And they're also sometimes, and this is the case today, very wonderful by following some of the spreads that are designed to go with the deck, because they're not your normal usual spread. They're quite different. But before I get into the spread I'm going to use today, I want to just tell you a little bit about the deck. The deck, as I said, is the Druid Plant Oracle, and here's the book, by the way, that goes with the deck. Nice big this big book, and there's the illustration to go with each card, and then there is a little background, a little story about the card, and then it has both an upright and a reverse meaning, which I will get to in a minute, and then it has a little bit more about something special. Like here it has juniper. I know I have a glare. I'm really sorry for glare. It's very bright today. I have a card, the juniper card, and down here is a little bit of a bonus bit of information down here. in this color block, text block, talking about juniper as perhaps the Beltane tree. You know that I'm pretty fascinated with Will Worthington and his illustrations. I have other decks that he's done that are just equally as beautiful. The Druid Animal Oracle, for one, and the Druid Craft Tarot, of course, that I have that I use quite frequently. Both of those are really, the illustrations are beautiful, but he had a good fascination with the Druids, and I love the illustrations. Are really convincing illustrations if you're fond of Druid craft like I am. It's a perfect marriage. We talk about the Druids and plants as oracles because the Druids used plants and herbalists. They were herbalists, of course, used all kinds of herbs and plants in healing and in what we call maybe magic, other intentions again, and of course as food, many of them as food, etc. Um, I think in this deck there are 36 herbs or plants, let's call them plants, recognized in this deck alone, 36 or 36 cards. And I believe each one of them has some kind of a link between druidry. We know from illustrations or maybe perhaps some kind of text that the druids, we believe, um, use these plants. With the exception, I know one exception is mandrake, because mandrake was not indigenous to the druids. But mandrake, has a lot of special magical properties. And healing properties. It's not healing, but let's call them metaphysical properties. Okay, so it's convincing. It works in the deck. Anyway, that's not that important. But I think what is important is to have a oracle deck based on a subject that is truth, that is fact. They talk about the healing properties of these plants, which are scientifically familiar. A lot of other, modern herbalists agree with the properties of these plants, and they're used today. So many of these things are used today for the same purposes. So that's very convincing to have that as the basis of an oracle. And then, you tie in with that, of course, other properties that are not physical, other properties that are spiritual or magical in some way, or, you know, it makes it a little more easy. It makes it easier to understand. Okay. So, I wanted to say this deck, first of all, the back of the deck gives a clue to what these cards are about. If you look at only the bottom, if I can cover this up, if ignore this top card, but you see the bottom symbol here, the three lines, sort of triangular shaped lines with three dots at the top. Do you see that? It's really two. It's that and that also in reverse, making up the back of the card. Okay, that is the symbol for Awen, which is I believe that's a Welsh term. And the spread that I want to do today for you is called the Awen spread. Okay, and this is what caught my eye, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. But the Awen spread, this is how it described. In the back of every book are these little spreads, and usually I don't pay much attention to them, but every once in a while one really catches my eye, and this one did. It says, in finding the seeds of inspiration, it's for finding the seeds of inspiration that can guide your life and for observing the relationship between past, present, and future in your mental, emotional, and physical worlds. That's really an amazing, a lot of information. I mean, that sort of tells the whole story there, doesn't it? So it's sort of interesting. Now, before we can go on, of course, before we go on, I want to talk to you about what this word Alwyn even means. Um, Alwyn is a Welsh word, like I said. And let me read you what it says about it in this book. Um, Used in Druidry to denote divine blessing and inspiration. It is symbolized by three rays of light emanating from 3 points. There are 3 drops of Awen that flew from the cauldron of Caradwen, and they also symbolize the 3 sunrise positions, the equinoxes at due east, and the midsummer and midwinter solstice positions to either side. Okay. A simple version of the spread involves choosing just 3 cards to represent the influences that may affect your past, present, and future. Okay. And in here, this is really important. It says, be careful not to use a simplistic interpretation in relation to the future card. Remember, it is not indicating what will come to pass, but rather what may be helping to shape the future. Okay. What may be happening to shape the future. Every tarot spread, that's true in every tarot spread. And I really appreciated that the author put that in this book, because a good thing to remember, that's just influences that may perhaps occur. That's all that is. Okay. But anyway, I was very much interested in the past, present, future um, idea, and the idea of connecting that between your mental, emotional, and physical health. And how does it do that? And it does that, and I'll show you when we lay it out. It talks about ideas, things that are ideas on that level. That would be your mental, right? Your emotional level would consider of what your emotions, easy one. And your physical world are things that are manifested, things that are around you, your physical world, right? So that's pretty interesting. If we think of a typical tarot deck, we might think of the ideas, right? The swords are the ideas, and the emotions come in the cups, right? And the manifestation, of course, comes in the pentacles. But when we go around that circle, when we go around the circle, um, what is missing from the circle is that it's the wands, it's that inspiration. I mean that spark, that creative spark, that little fire, that fire that gets us going, that gets those ideas, that turns those into manifestations, right? We have to have that spark, that desire, and that creative spark. That creative spark is what the um, Welsh word awen refers to. Okay, it is something that the bardic people, that was something that they had to have. What inspired the bards to tell the stories that they had in their hearts? What inspired the bards to um, create the poetry that they had, to express what they felt? It was Awen. Okay, so I thought this was very interesting. Of course, it was interesting for me because I'm a bard, a bard in the SCA. I'm a musician in real life. I've been a musician. I'm not a musician, but I've been a musician and been a poet and been a writer in my life. Okay, so it was very interesting. That spark has to be there. And I've also talked to you about the spark, that spark of creativity that is healing for me. And I think it's healing for most people to be able to heal using the creative spark. And the fact that this spread tied that all in together, um, it was really important to me. It was so important. A little bit more about the cards before I continue. Um, for each card, there's offered a description and an illustration. Um, in gray shade. It's just in gray shade. It's not in color, but it's there, so you're reminded what it looks like. But there's a little background about the plant itself, and then there's both offered a reverse meaning and an upright. I mean, a reverse meaning and an upright meaning. Okay, and um, what it says about reversals in this book is, for an upright card, you may also like to read the reverse meaning, or sometimes it can represent a hidden side of the issue being considered. Okay, and then it says, likewise, for a reverse card, reading the upright interpretation may reveal hidden dimensions. Now, this is something else that I teach all the time. Um, I don't normally read reversals as say, but I consider them, and I consider them depending on the layout, where they occur and how many there were, etc. To maybe give a little bit of a condition to the reading that I'm offering. But I always say that every card, no matter how good or bad, has both sides of the coin. It represents both sides. Nothing is 100% good or 100% bad, 100% positive or 100% negative. Everything there's still something that is going to come out of it that is positive, and also there's also a warning that usually is associated with each card, at least for me when I read. So again, I appreciated that too in this reading, to pay attention to those as another part of the meaning. Okay, another part of the meaning. It's like asking somebody for advice, and they say, "Oh yes, you should go ahead and do it, but please don't forget this, and please also consider this, and you know, tread a little lightly because." Right? That's sort of natural to give shades of positive, negative. Right? Okay. Um, it has a really nice chart at the back too. I want to say, with all 36. I know this is glare and you cannot see it, but if you buy the deck, you'll be able to see it. If you don't buy the deck, it won't matter to you, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, it's just a nice index of the cards and giving their name and their keywords, etc., where you can find it. But it also has the Gaelic names, which I was really interested in because I'll tell you why. This card, when I dealt my cards out, and you'll see it in a minute, the card Bethany came up for me, which comes up a lot. I don't use this deck very often, but I keep this card is familiar that I've seen it so many times before. And I notice that because I get a little disappointed when I keep seeing the same cards because every once in a while I'll pull a couple cards out of here and I think then I'll come back to it another time and I'll think eventually I will get to know all the cards. Well, that doesn't happen if you keep pulling the same cards. And this card comes up a lot for me. And I laughed today when I looked at this chart because there is Bethany. And I see here the Gaelic names listed beside these. And the Gaelic name for this, LUS word, and then BHEATHAG, which I know because my Gaelic name, even though it's not Welsh, it's Scots Gaelic. My medieval Scots Gaelic name is Beoch, which is spelled BEATHOG, Beoch. And this is Beach or Beach. It's same word. It's the same word. And I thought that was really funny because then if I look at the keywords and I look at the both in the reverse and the upright, oh, it's sort of hitting home for me. And also when this came up in my reading today, this card, um, we'll get to that when I get to it. What it says, I'm like, this is kind of funny because it's kind of me. This is my card and me in my reading. These things happen. They happen. Everything happens like this for a reason. Okay, well, I'm going to turn the deck, the camera, because I want to show you what I got. But first, I want to show you so that I can show you the layout, how they have this laid out. I can just show you the little black and white illustration they have here. This is with the cards. If you wanted to lay this out for yourself, this is what you would use. And you could use any deck for this. It does not have to be this. But this is a perfect, remember this deck, this spread was designed for this deck. Just keep that in mind when you're using these special uh, spreads that were designed for the decks that come in the back of the book. Some of them are universal spreads, but other ones are just a little sort of, it might be unique to the card. Okay, well, I'm gonna change my camera and then we're gonna look at my cards. I'm seeing I'm having some trouble. I don't know why I'm having this trouble with my lights today, but I hope you can see this little bit here in the book. I know the print is very small and you won't be able to really tell, but I can tell you what it is. It has in lines from left to right what we would normally see past, present, and future. So you see these 9 cards. 3 columns, past on the left, present in the center, future on the right. And then it has rows going this way And the top row, these top 3 cards, past, present, future, ideas. Ideas of the past, ideas of the present, ideas of the future. The second row, the middle row, are emotions. Emotions of the past, emotions of the present, emotions for the future. And finally, on the bottom card are the manifestations. Manifestations on the past, manifestations of the present, manifestations of the future. I know it's not really good. I know I'm not showing you that well. But remember, this is just for fun. It's not for money, so we're just showing it for fun. Okay. But bear with me, okay? Bear with me. And these are the cards that I pulled. And yes, I see that there's a glare. I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to try my very best. I don't know. I know we're in the process of changing the room around a little bit again. So hopefully that's going to sort out the lighting. So just bear with me today. We'll try to get this an improvement on here. But here I just have them piled up here. 1, 2, 3. These represents my past, my present, and my future. Okay, and what I wanted to say is when you deal these cards out, you deal them this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, beginning with the past ideas and going down past ideas, present ideas. No, past ideas, past emotions, past manifestations. It's 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6 are present ideas, present emotions, present manifestations, and 7, 8, 9 are future ideas, future emotions, and future manifestations. Okay, hope that was clear. Okay, now for the purpose of our reading, we're going to look at, first of all, just ideas. We're going to look at ideas. Okay, these are ideas or impulses that are affecting your life, or in this case, my life, or under consideration. These are ideas. Okay, what ideas were driving me in the past? What about the present? And what ideas are going to mold my future? Somehow going to affect my future. Okay, so here we have primrose. Primrose in the left. It's a really lovely card with the primroses in the front. It shows a cauldron hanging over a fire. It shows the water in the background, the smoke rising up into the sky. And primrose talks about romantic love maybe being renewed, some old loves being renewed. It talks about old creativity, maybe that's recaptured. You know, it's sort of that nostalgia feeling of, oh, I used to want to do this. I used to want to do this. Oh, I remember when I was younger, I really wanted to do this, or I really loved to do this. Okay. This is the primrose is the flower of the bard. It is the song of the soul, or it is the story of the heart. So I thought that was really important because that kind of has really, for me too, it has really kind of shaped my life. That's exactly what I did. You know, I fell in love at a young age with another bard, and we made music. We've made music our whole lives. We've done things romantically. We weren't ready to be married, and we were married. We ran away to California. We did these things. We dropped out of school for a while and went and did our thing. You know, we just have done all our lives kind of putting it into sort of that crazy kind of a romantic thing. And one thing I do want to say, I did not, I forgot to tell you another thing that's in this book. I'm going to go to that right now if I could. Because it also, another interesting thing this deck does, offers like categories. You can see these categories. Where would I find that? Here at the back of the book, it offers categories when you're interpreting the cards, okay? And it talks about cards being divided up into different themes almost, okay? Like you would have different suits in a tarot deck. But in this deck, we don't have suits. But in this deck, and they're not even listed, that this is the, it's not even listing it anywhere on it, other than this chart that I can see. But it tells you in this little place in the back, in this little text box, that some cards are grouped into the category of healers. Okay, some cards are grouped into a category of being warrior cards. Some are lover cards. Some are cards of the bard. Some are cards of the seer or shaman, and some are cards of the diplomat or the druid. Okay, and interestingly, my past very much shaped my ideas in the past. Is Primrose, and Primrose is one of the cards of the bard, which I found very interesting to me. Okay, so that's very much. Now, where did those ideas take me into the present? In the present, I have the Fir Club Moss. It's a club moss. There's a lot of mosses, tons of mosses, and here's the moss, the Fir Club Moss. And it's talking about this is a time in my present, and the ideas now it says about me shaping my ideas, or I'm finally starting to be able to see things more clearly. Previous lack of emotional distance may have caused my perception to become impaired. How many times have you heard me say that? I'm all tied up in my emotions, triple cancer me. I'm led by my emotions all the time. And that some gets me into it. And now I'm really kind of in a place right now where I kind of understand that that's the case, and I have to really try to maintain an emotional distance, because in the past I acted out of emotion all the time. Okay, and then finally in the future we have Heather. Heather, and Heather is another. It's another plant of the bard. Um, Ideas to think about for the future instead of thinking about difficulties, focusing on the positive aspects of the people around you instead of focusing on the differences. Well, we could all use that advice, can't we? Um, it says be more aware of the community, of somebody's role in the community. Good advice. I do react kind of negatively sometimes to people, and maybe this is saying give people a break and try to look at them in a as a part of a group rather than as an individual, and that might be really good advice. Okay, so that might help me shape my future. Remember, these cards on this right hand side are all about cards that are going to help me shape my future. They're not my future, they're just cards that are going to help me, and this is really good advice coming from Heather. Okay, so now we have the second card coming along representing the emotions. Okay, let's see where I am here with emotion. Okay, the first one is the Banes, and I just lost my chart. There we go. The Banes. Okay, the Banes is beautiful card. Whoops. And the Banes is a card of the seer. Card of the seer. Okay, this is about my past emotions. My past emotions. Whoops. I'm kind of dropping things here. My past emotions, okay? And it talks about the Banes as being it says, we are so used to the high drama and big stories that we forget the immense power of the smallest things, which can change everything. Oh, well, that we could have all used that in 2020. That's a real good. This is a real good card coming out of 2020, isn't it? That we were all the world that was falling apart. We thought the world was falling apart, but we all kind of learned it's the little things that we love the most, that we can appreciate the most. The power that the smallest thing is, the very power of being able to get a haircut when you need one, or being able to hug your your child, or being able to go out to dinner or a quiet stroll, down the streets of the city with the lights on, you know, gathering together for backyard barbecue, those simple things that we didn't get a chance to do. Okay, so that's the emotion coming out of the past. And then we have the puffball, which is a mushroom puffball. Which is, of course, a healer. A healer. The puffball is all about healing. It says something peculiar may be about to happen or may be happening that you don't fully understand. You may have access to Earth's deep mysteries or the realms of the fairies. Well, I've had all kinds of really curious things happening to me right now. I don't know if that's what they're talking about or not, but I do feel those kind of energies around me right now that I'm kind of at a loss, which is kind of funny for a crone because a crone has all this wisdom, right? We go around brag about our wisdom all the time. And right now I'm kind of not sure a lot of times. I'm kind of thinking, well, what in the heck is that all about? I'm not sure what that's all about. So that might be talking about that. Might be referring to that. I'm not sure. And then I have the cuckoo pint coming up, shaping my future, perhaps, or might be to help shape the future anyway. And the cuckoo pint, what a cute name. That's a lover. That's a lover card. Very interesting. And the cuckoo pint talks about profound harmony. Oh, profound harmony with the person you love. It's also a great time of creativity and fertility. So these emotions that I'm feeling, coming to a big head here, coming to a big head, coming to a big climax, so to speak. All about, being that, having that profound kind of love and harmony with the person that I love or the people that I love, maybe. And also a great time of creativity, a great time of growth and fertility, which we're all excited about. And I've been saying this in a way, as sad as I was about last year's garden, if we just talk about the garden, my garden this year, I am so hopeful. I don't even know why. Can't even it doesn't really show me signs of being hopeful yet. I just feel this great sense of hope that it's really going to happen this year. We're going to have a beautiful year for the garden. Okay. And then finally, we talk about the manifestations. We have three here, the manifestations. Okay. The past manifestations, here are the guardians. And the guardians in the past, um, which would be a healer card. Aren't these beautiful? I wish you could see how intensely beautiful they are. The illustrations, I mean, Will Worthington is just about he's one of the greatest illustrators of tarot and oracle decks that I've ever seen. I mean, he's just really, it's captivating. His illustrations captivate you. That's the only word I can think of. And you really have to see it in person to really get the full extent of it. So if you have an opportunity to get any one of Will Worthington's decks, I really recommend it. Okay, but anyway, this card, Guardian card, I said was um, a the healer card, the Guardians, I should say. It's not the Guardian, it's the Guardians. Okay, and this is talking about um, little things, fixing things by little adjustments, and strengthening specific aspects of a relationship and building on these rather than looking on the weakness. And I think that's sort of where I've come from. If I want to talk about manifestation, we have built on things. Um, Very simplistic. My husband and I, for instance, have led a very simple life. We we did have advantages growing up. We did. I admit that, and maybe too many. But once we got married, that stopped. We got married very young, and so we had a lot of years, very many years of very lean times, and we worked really, really hard because we did do things the hard way. We had big dreams and little to uh, we had little to manifest. To be honest, we didn't have a lot of money. We bought money. We bought our first house, and we didn't even have any. We didn't have an income really. We bought a house. We bought another house. We bought three houses. Got us to California. Here we got our third one. That's how we got to California, and we really didn't even have any money. It's kind of an amazing adventure. But we've just done. We did without so many things because we knew what our dreams were. We wanted our dreams. Okay, so that's sort of a very cool card coming from that simple building on something small, rather than we didn't focus on the weak things. We did not focus on our weaknesses really. The present, there's my card that I was talking about. This is the Bethany card, which is the Bail card. Right? This is the me card, the Bethany. And Bethany being, of course, I just said, a healer card. In this position, the present manifestation, it talks about communication must be fostered to resolve any conflicts that inevitably rise in a meaningful relationship. I'm all about this, and this is any difficulties that I'm having right now seem to keep coming down to communication. And I have this is it's like I want to say nemesis, because it's not a nemesis, but it's like when I have a breakdown in any way with people or with groups or with situations or with anything, it always seems to come down to me like a matter of communications. Why people don't understand? Why don't people understand? Didn't I just say this? Didn't I just say it? Why didn't you hear me? Why didn't you read what I actually wrote? Why didn't you listen to what I actually said? Why didn't you? My whole world seems to be revolving around that right now. Because I know that for me is just really, really important. That's really, really important to me. But instead of being upset about it, I need to foster the community. I need to think of ways to make that improve, make that situation improve, rather than just be pissed. Which, I get it. I do get it. And finally for Vane, which is the card of the diplomat, the card of the Druid. Um, Interestingly enough, this talks about a beneficial cycle is set in motion whereby our good intentions and acts result in further positive actions from others which enhance our own lives. Okay, so if the communication works out, okay, and our good intentions toward others and trying to see, instead of seeing their faults, if I look into them and how they fit into the group and what their role is in the group rather than what is their role as an individual out to destroy my sense of fair play, so let's call it. Uh, Maybe that's what it's saying. I don't know. Kind of funny. It's far reaching, but you get the gist. It's not a normal tarot reading. It's not normal tarot cards. Don't expect to get normal results from a deck like this. Okay, let me come back and look at you. I want to look at you. How was it? I don't know if that was fun for you or not. I know it was I'm a little flippant when I do my readings in front of people because I wasn't that serious when I drew the cards, but which I should have been if I really wanted to do a true accurate reading. And again, I apologize. That's probably from my little bit of prejudice still against oracle cards. But I'm really sincere in saying that this deck is worth having, and this spread is worth trying. And I will try it again. I will try it again at another time. I love the cards. Like I think these cards, I've used them in the past, in my bullet journal. I've used them in the past for card of the month, kind of, this is my energies for the month or whatever, or the week. Maybe I've used it, shown on the altar like I sometimes do with other oracle decks. Focusing in on whatever this plant is trying to teach me, or what animal is trying to teach me, or whatever. I think they're very, very useful for those kind of things. So if you don't have an oracle deck and you're considering buying one, and you've been putting it off because maybe people like me, I've said some smack, I talk smack about them, which I don't mean to do. These are good. These are excellent. If you have any kind of inclination to them or Will Worthington, I really recommend this deck, or the Druids. I really recommend it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And the subtleties again that you will get on some of these illustrations, just lovely. They're just lovely. I don't know how to say. Okay. The idea of combining in a reading the categories of something like past, present, future, and your mental, emotional, and physical well-being is really paramount. And I like it so much. I really like it so much. I'm going to share this, I think, with my tarot group. This I think I'm going to share it this week to show them, because it's really interesting. It's an interesting twist on that past, present, and future reading, which I don't really often use. I use it too often, I have to admit. Okay, so that was really it. Which is something a little different. Um, I'm going to get back into some of my other things that I was doing for you before. I will get back into some of the decks that had started before with you. And I promised that I'm going to come back into Lenormand. I know I dropped the ball with Lenormand a little bit, but I got sidetracked. But we're going to, I think a lot of you went out and purchased the Lenormand neck, and now you're probably sitting there going, okay, now what are we going to do? So watch for that in weeks coming up. We're going to be going back into Lenormand a little bit. Again, I'm trying to bring you some kind of a tarot video every week. It's difficult to do, especially now because I'm doing a lot of the other Zoom. I have Zoom commitments, so it's a little difficult for me to get enough videos out. But I'm trying. I'm really trying. So thank you, those of you who are stuck with me. I really appreciate it. Okay, but the idea about tarot, whatever kind of a exercise you can do with the cards, be with your cards is the most important way to grow. Whether it's a tarot deck, oracle deck, Lenormand deck, whatever it is. Okay, just play with them. Just spend some time with them. Be around them, and you will benefit. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much for coming, watching me today. I appreciate it so much. I am Rebecca, and I send you, as always, blessings.